Millions of concerned Americans took to the streets on Saturday to celebrate No King's Day. I'm Little Miss VRB.
And I'm Sari, Beth Rosenberg, and you're listening to the Politoxic Podcast. So we covered both coasts for y'all, me here in New York City and Little Miss VRB in Los Angeles. We both attended our respective No Kings protests, and I'm assuming that a lot of you listening and watching did the same. I can speak to New York if you can speak to LA. You want to do that? Let's do it.
I kind of would love to hear about yours because you guys were rained out. First of all, rain or shine, New York turned out. What was that like?
Yeah, so I was looking at the forecast all week and I was nervous that other people weren't going to show up. I 100% was going to show up no matter what. I had my group, my girl gang. We had our plans. We were making our signs and I figured, okay, well, we're going. Let's see what happens. Well, let's just say no one in New York City was scared of the rain. And it was just unbelievable. It was supposed to start at 2 and we got there a little before 2 and it was already packed. It took a good 30, 45 minutes to even start marching. It started at Bryant Park. If anyone's familiar with New York City, on the east side, starting at Bryant Park, and then it went it went from down to 28th Street, which is Madison Square Park. And it took 2.5 hours to march. 2.5 hours in that small stretch. It was packed.
That street was just packed out with people. It was
shoulder to shoulder. Listen, we've all been practicing. We've all had 10 years to come up with some good anti-Trump signs. And just like LA, you have some of the most creative people in one city, and the signs were signing and people were just, the energy on the streets was just incredible. And what I always forget what I love about protests is that you feel like you're like, I'm in like everyone's, especially in New York, we're all in our tiny little apartments compared to your LA mansions. I'm kidding. But tinier apartments, you're crammed in here and you start thinking, wait, is it just me and my intimate group of friends that are freaking out like this? And if you're lucky, your family members as well. And you get out on those streets and you're like, oh my God, it was hundreds of thousands of people. And from all generations, it wasn't just people of the boomer or Gen X generation, young people, middle-aged people, older people, everyone, people in wheelchairs. Like it was just every walk of life represented. At one point, this was like a moment where I was like, this is a core memory. I just had, those moments you have where you're like, I'm going to remember this moment. We had seen these, those guys with those big speakers that are the protest. Well, we had seen this guy earlier on. He was playing, we're in the middle of he stopped at one point and we were like, you know what? Let's just hang out with this guy for a little bit. And so we were like, let's dance. And we were just like in the street in the pouring rain, dancing to Pink Pony Club and F Donald Trump. And people were walking by dancing. And it was just so fun. And I think that's important. There needs to be joy in protests and there needs to be something that you're fighting for, not just against. And at that moment, I was like, not to be corny, but I'm like, I'm fighting for this. I'm fighting for us to feel this joy and happiness again. And we can't let this administration take it away from us. And as the tanks are the disrespect to the military and these tanks are squeaking along to the lack of crowds, we turned out in record numbers and showed what we stand for and also what we stand against.
Yeah. I have to say, I think LA, it did have all of those amazing vibes as well, but I think the overall tone was a little bit different because for myself personally, I was a little bit scared to leave the house that day. I think what we're experiencing here, not just with ICE, but with the military presence and all of that, it just kind of feels like a weird time to be outside. And I had some friends that went downtown, and one of them, I met her at the Bernie and AOC rally, and she's amazing. And she went as press. She has like a press vest and everything. She works for a couple of different publications, and she was tear gassed on Saturday, and she's okay. Thankfully, everybody's okay, but it got a little crazy down there. So I did not go downtown. I stayed in my immediate neighborhood where I could walk to the protest. But then once I got there, it was scary to leave the house. But once I got there, it was just the best experience I've had probably since the election. Just like you said, feeling community for the first time. And knowing that there are that many people that feel the same way as I do felt comforting. All in all, I think that day showed a lot of us that in itself, that you're not alone in your feelings. And I think there's enough of us that we're not just going to let them take over. We can't.
No, no, we're not. We can't. And I think that I feel like I was watching Tim Snyder on Rachel Maddow before we started recording, my two faves. And Tim Snyder he's a scholar, historian, expert in authoritarian regimes and fascism. And he's one of the three Yale professors who went to Canada. But he actually showed up at the flagship protest on Saturday that was in Philadelphia. And he spoke about, what they're fighting, not just against, but what they're fighting for. And in the Rachel Maddow interview just now, he said it's really important that when you are building these movements, that you have to show the people a bright future that we're fighting for. It can't just be, oh, F Donald Trump, we hate what he's doing. It's disgusting. He's taking away democracy. I think we need to remind people what and who they're fighting for. And I think that when you show up in community like we are, whether it's in LA where you're under much more duress, unfortunately, which unfortunately might also be a harbinger of things to come to blue cities like New York City, which we can talk about in a second. It's so important to come together in community and just look around and be like, here's all the people who are fighting with me. And also these are the people I'm fighting for. And that's just so important in these nonviolent protests that we are being
Nonviolent protests. And I think that was another thing that kind of showed the whole country where our hearts are at. Like, there weren't these riots and things that the news stations have tried to portray this story all week long about the violence. And while, yes, there is always, a little bit of civil unrest and situations of political discourse, the protests on Saturday were largely peaceful, minus the incident in Utah, which is horrible and tragic.
Horrible and tragic.
Horrible and tragic.
Yeah. But that's the point, right? That these need to remain peaceful. They will remain peaceful. I think we're all far too smart to let the outside agitators that jumped into the Black Lives Matter protest which was 5 years ago, 2020. I mean, it's crazy to think that we're back here again, except for with several years to go until we vote this guy out. There's no blueprint for how to protest this stuff. There's special rule book, because we're not robots. We're human beings reacting to human actions in this case, inhuman actions.
If we have to keep showing up every day, I feel like Saturday opened our eyes to how many people are engaged and paying attention to what's going on. And I think mobilizing and figuring out how to continue it in the right direction to actually forcing the real changes is going to be the hard part for us. But I sincerely hope that everybody who showed up to protest on Saturday also understands the importance of showing up to vote. We've talked about this before with BLM and the women's marches and all of these things. And I love to see everybody activated. And I would love just as much to see those voter registrations go through the roof. I mean, this is just an idea that I just had while we're sitting here. It's like someone should be registering people to vote at every single protest. Like, we need a team of little organized baddies that we can send around with clipboards and just get as many people registered as possible. I'm like, we have to call somebody about this. That's a move. Yeah, that's definitely a move.
It needs to, who I love? I love the organization headcount.org, and I did some work with them during the last election cycle. They show up. I like what they do. And what they do is they show up at concerts. So they'll go to a Green Day concert and register people to vote. And they have an army of volunteers who get to go to these concerts for free and sign people up to vote. But I hope that they're also planning to go to the next protest. We were talking about this before we started recording, the importance of going to these events and building these, meeting people, creating community. It's such a great opportunity to just meet like-minded people, especially if you live in a town that's primarily red. And that's why these protests are so important, because you look around, you're like, oh my God, I'm not alone.
Yeah, I'll tell a quick story. And so when I started walking down, I was maybe 3 blocks away from where I live, and I see this girl kind of walking really quickly on the other side of the street, and she was crossing to get to where I was. And so I kind of turned around and looked at her, and we both gave each other the heads up. And she's like, "Are you going?" And I said, "Yeah, are you?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you want to go together?" And then we ended up spending the whole day together. She's an
Love
amazing
that.
photographer who loves activism and cares about everything that's going on. And so we literally spent the whole day together taking care of each other and left the protest together. So I can
That's so
attest to that.
awesome.
Like you might go alone, but you're going to
Yeah.
leave at least with one friend. And so go find the people.
Find your people. They're all at the protest. And like there was Hot Girl Summer, Black Lives Matter Summer, Barbie Summer, Brat Summer. And now it's I really miss Brat Summer. Oh,
Barbie,
like Barbie
Brat,
Summer,
Kamala Summer.
like Barbie Summer, you and I, we're gonna hang out again this summer. So we're gonna bring it back. We hung out Barbie Summer. I remember we were at that pool and we were all dancing to the
In
Barbie soundtrack.
Hollywood.
It was such a beautiful moment.
And we made friends with a bunch of random girls that day too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
But the
theme
new
here.
place to me, we think, is going to be protests.
Yeah, it's a hot girl protest summer. And
Why is that so?
well, because all the hot boys are protesting ICE. All the hot girls are protesting ICE. I mean, come on. Like, I'm sorry, but like scrolling through Hinge and all you're seeing are what are you doing when you're on Hinge? If you are, I'm going to say a normal human being who cares about humans, you're looking to see before you screen if he seems crazy. Then you have to look and see what his political views are. And if he's moderate, no. If it's not listed or apolitical, no.
Not
And then
political.
if he says he's liberal, he could just be lying to get us. So you know that your hot boy or hot girl, depending on what you like, is 100% on board if they're not at a brunch spot on a Saturday, but they are there at the protest. If you even want to date men anymore, which is like, God bless. But if you do, like at the very least, the bar needs to be, are you at the protest?
100%. Hot guys care about human rights and healthcare. Personally, I think anyone who's not speaking up about what's going on right now is not hot anymore, whether
So
that
not hot.
be a celebrity, whether that be an influencer, whether that be someone in your friend group. I sincerely feel that anyone who is calm and chill about what's going on right now is missing a couple screws up there, because I don't know how anybody could watch this. But seeing the type of men that are at the protests, they're carrying the signs. They were handing out water. They were helping women get up on the curb. And I'm like, this is the vibes. Like, this is what we're looking for.
Her.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, set aside the fact that we're looking for, possible apocalyptic partners that could help
Yes.
us through these type of situations that we could be looking down the barrel of. But I want to know that the man that I want cares about other people, because how could a man possibly care about you if he doesn't care about anybody else, if he doesn't care
Yeah.
about his neighbors or
And
the
it's,
people in his building that work in his building that are getting taken away? If someone doesn't care about that, they're out.
oh yeah,
Like, you have to
it's
go.
total beta behavior to not care. And
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of a more just beta male behavior than not caring about that, not caring about the fact that this completely authoritarian regime is looking to snatch people up.
Also, this is, I feel like, a perfect opportunity for the entire not all men crowd. Like, we
Yes.
hear guys come in the comment section all the time, not all men, stop trusting all men. Okay, I would love to see Democratic, left leaning people on our side of the spectrum. I would like to see those men standing up.
Yeah.
Show us how masculine you can be. Now is your time to shine, fellas.
Yeah.
Like,
You
step to
guys,
the front. Step
like
to the front.
men used to go to war. At the very least, you can carve out 2 to 3 hours on a weekend day or a weeknight and protest ICE and protest for the future of this country. Like, no one's asking you to take up a gun anymore, sir. But we just want you to hold up a protest sign and be there, to put your body on the line to protect our nation. So yeah, like, it's hot girl protest summer.
It is.
That summer's over, but it'll always have a place in our hearts. But yeah.
I feel like now we get to change the attire, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the military party. I posted here's the thing. Okay, first of all, I am totally in the rabbit hole conspiracy theory that they were doing like a silent protest of their own, because someone posted a video like one of the most one of the most like basic things you learn in basic training is how to march in step. And no one was calling out the march, and they all were out of sync. And it was like, you and I could have done that better. So I'm not disrespecting them. I want to hope that they were not giving it their all because they felt like they were being used, because they were. I feel like they didn't WD-40 those tanks because they were just like, let it squeak. I mean,
squeaking audio that is now trending on TikTok is
so good. I mean, because
it was just a gross, obscene amount of money to spend. Like, thinking about the amount of veterans that could have been fed, or, you know, shelters that could have gotten funding for like years. I mean, there's so many things that could have been
all the
done.
Doge cuts, all those Doge cuts, you know, which were all unnecessary. The optics of it, he was falling asleep at his own birthday parade. And I mean, maybe everyone lied to him, said it was a big turn up, but it wasn't. I saw the photos, I saw the videos. They were expecting like Obama inauguration level of turnout. And I think that they definitely did not have that. It was nowhere near that. And the people were protesting. That's what the people were doing.
It was a big tell. And so I don't want to hear from anyone else again that half the country feels this way, because I'm not buying it.
The issue is that we need to flood the zone with our votes in 2026 to avoid any type of craziness.
Basically, though, what the protest showed us is that I genuinely don't believe that half the country feels this way if we want to compare crowd sizes to the amount of people that were in the streets.
It was like this to this.
Yeah. Numbers don't lie, right?
The numbers don't lie.
But I'm definitely looking forward to a hot girl protest summer of activism and fighting this, and fighting for the people in our communities that make them run. And we just keep going. We fight another day.
We fight another day, and get your hot girl protest gear ready, and find your hot guys at the protests, and delete the apps. We have a democracy to save. Let's say that again. Delete the apps. We have a democracy to save.
One, two.
Delete the apps. We have a democracy to save. So let's do it.
How many times? I can't do it.
Well, I'll do it. Hold on.
Okay. Roll.
Okay. What the fuck? Okay. It's gonna. Okay, so you say it. Okay, let's do it again. 3, 2, 1.
We will be back next week with some more topics. We will be back next week with some more topics. I can't play.
Yeah, we need to have this later. Yeah.
One more time. Why am I sweating? We will be back next week with some more toxic topics. Bye.
Bye.